Before we actually get into the video, you should know that the MK vets, the Umkhonto we Sizwe, the ANC armed forces that fought against the struggle, are probably the worst army ever seen in the history of the world, right? They spent their time doing drugs in Lusaka, killing each other, and most importantly, bombing civilians of South Africa who had no part whatsoever to play within the apartheid system. So MK vets are, for the most part, the worst people in the world and deserve no compassion from you whatsoever. But before we go to that particular story, we are looking for sponsors on Morning Shot. If you want to reach the most intelligent audience in the entire country, why not send us an email, roman@morningshot.co.za. Together we can make a great team. But anyway, on to the story. Byron, did you know MK vets want 4.2 million rand as reparations for fighting in the struggle? That sounds reasonable.
Yes, this is a story that we were made aware during our interview with Mr. Kurbis, who is the DA's Shadow Minister for Defense and Military Vets. While I was talking to him, obviously he raised an issue with us, which was actually around the government's proposal to strip prior military vets of their pensions rights and reallocate the budget. Mr. Kurbis pulled the numbers, and it would seem that the vets prior to the law change is around 83,000, and with the law change it would be 19,000. So obviously, as you can see, there's around 60,000 vets who would no longer have a pension. So you have to ask yourself, why would that be? Would you know it? I think this is just the ANC trying to re-lubricate the patronage network, going to all of the former MK vets and trying to give them a bolster up or a leg up on their pensions.
Yeah, so just to give you a bit of context, right? The MK vets has been a thorn in the side of the ANC for a long period of time. Close to 2 years ago, they took the Minister of Defense hostage. Remember that? Tandi Modise. They stormed into the building, took a hostage, and then only recently the MPA decided not to press charges for some reason. The MK vets have always been a force for grifting, right? They fought against apartheid, therefore they want 4 million rand each as reparations, as well as housing and other social benefits. The problem is the government can't actually afford to give them that, right? So what the government has said was, we will give you like 5,000 rand a month per month because, you know, that's all we can really afford. And the MK vets are none too happy about that. So in my opinion, and our conspiracy here on Morning Shot is, under the Military Veterans Act of 2011, it defines veteran as anyone who served in the armed forces, statutory or non-statutory. So you can be MK vet or part of the SNDF. That act applies to you. With the new policy changes, they want that act only applied to MK veterans and not to normal SNDF veterans. So it looks like they're trying to jiggle around the law that will basically give the grift to MK veterans through pension benefits, which don't accrue to anyone else who is a veteran. That's very dodgy.
So if you look at the reason why they may be doing this, obviously we drew this comparison the other day. So the South African economy is now in the same state that Zimbabwe's economy was when it went through decline, and we're 3 years away. If you use the Zimbabwe economy as a model to mirror ours, we're 3 years away from potential land grabs. And for those of you who don't recall, the reason for the land grabs in Zimbabwe was actually due to the former military veterans saying that they felt that the dispensation they got underpaid them. They didn't actually get the results from the military struggle that they thought they were going to get. Hence, they did the land grab. So a conspiracy theory may be that this is the government's way to actually alleviate this pressure to provide them with some kind of benefits in order to keep them quiet. But actually, you have to look at it a little bit more cynical, and that is, if you actually align the ANC faction of MK vets, it is very much in the RET type line. It's very much part of that faction, which, as we know, is not Ramaphosa's faction. So a more cynical person would say that this is an attempt to bribe that faction to side with the reigning president as opposed to the RET faction. Another argument could potentially be that all this is really attempting to do is to provide cushy pension benefits to former MK vets or former ANC supporters in order to gain their vote. As we know, 2024 is around the corner. There is a sizable number of potential parties that could be part of the MK vets. I mean, this is actually part of the problem with MK vets. You don't really know who was a member and who wasn't. And we've all seen those videos where we have like some 20-year-old saying, I'm an MK vet. And you're like, mate, you weren't even born during apartheid. The problem then comes in is, how does these people kind of get these monies? How do they get this kind of like pension? And it's a lot easier to claim that you're a part of it and then receive yourself a benefit. We've seen that in many other kind of factions of government. We've seen it in PRASA. We've seen it in the social grant. There is no reason for us to believe that this just isn't another ANC attempt at buying a vote.
And before we continue, a quick word from our sponsors. That's right, we have created a brand new insurance brokerage called, funny enough, Morning Shot Insurance Brokers. So if you're interested in saving money on insurance, number one, but most importantly, having a Zoom with me and my wonderful face, why not send me your insurance schedule to ramon@morningshot.co.za. Let's chat. Maybe we can help each other save money and deliver superior service, because that's what we're all about here at Morning Shot. Actually, your point about land grabs and where we are concerning Zimbabwe is actually very valid, and not one that I actually thought about. Could this be actually the ANC trying to moderate the worst excesses of the ANC, these so-called MK veterans, in terms of just basically bribing them under this new policy with pensions and social grants and all that other nonsense, so that they don't go and, claim land and invade land and cause disruption where they don't want it to be? Because there's very good evidence to suggest MK vets were responsible in some part for the July peaceful protests in KZN almost 2 years ago now. And I wonder whether that was like a warning bell to the ANC. It's like, guys, we're here, we fought for you, in inverted commas. We want the grift. We want the lucre. We want to be part of the patronage network. And if you don't, the peaceful protests will continue until things change. So I think your view there is actually quite valid. This is probably like a riot prevention strategy rather than the ANC trying to improve the patronage network for people that it doesn't really care about.
Either way that you look at it, I mean, obviously the ANC's model, and this is something that Ramon, you and I talk about quite a bit. If you look at it, the way that they will justify it is they will say that the former members of the South African Armed Forces, obviously all whiteys, were obviously all part of an evil regime and therefore shouldn't really be kind of provided with any real reward through a pensions fund. I mean, obviously these poor underprivileged people at the MK vets fought against the tyranny of the state, and therefore the pie that South Africa always has, this pie, the pie, we never grow the pie, we just redistribute it. This is just an attempt to redistribute the pie. It's to say we need to provide for these people, the people that actually vote for the ANC, and therefore what we'll do is we'll redistribute the pie and only provide for our people. Now I say those words very carefully, because the whole concept of our people, let's face it, nobody from the former dispensation votes for the ANC. Okay, MK vets vote for the ANC, but nobody underneath the former, should we say, apartheid government votes for them. And the ANC know that. On top of this, that one of the problems with white South Africans, and we see this in a lot of liberal white South Africans, is that they all believe that they follow the laws, everybody will leave them alone. Even when the laws don't really go to their benefit, even when the laws proactively disadvantage them. So let's face it, even if you cut these people's pensions, what are they going to do about it? Moan about it on Twitter, say, oh, this place is going to the hell and then we go to Australia? ANC don't care, because these guys aren't going to provide a protest, they're not going to burn down half a province, and they're not going to stop voting for the ANC just because you didn't provide them with lucre. So if you think about it from a strategic point of view, this is the most logical way for the ANC to take that pie, that pie we never grow, and redistribute it to its voters. And if you really think about it, a cynical person may argue that's exactly what the ANC is doing.
Exactly, because let us not forget the MK veterans actually want to sue the state for 10 billion rand to get the 2,000 veterans their 4 million rand as reparations for fighting in the struggle. And I'm just going to repeat what I said at the top of this video. The MK vets were the worst fighting force this world has ever known. If there was a pitched battle between the Girl Scouts and the MK vets, the Girl Scouts would win, right? That's how bad they are. But they still want to be a part of the grift. They still have some form of power, and they can still destabilize the country further than it is already destabilized. So at the end of the day, right, you take away money from the SANDF, from the people who fought under apartheid, and you plug that money towards the MK veterans who didn't do anything during the course of apartheid, ostensibly so that the MK doesn't have a peaceful protest once again, leaving a province in ruin. That is the most charitable interpretation that I can see through the story.
Remember the famous ANC line, which we have heard repeated through many ministers, and that is they never joined the struggle to become poor or to even remain poor. These people want their pound of flesh. They've seen other ANC individuals rise up the ranks and become multimillionaires, and these individuals haven't. So they feel that it's now their time to eat. They also know that the time to eat is becoming rather short because the country's economic situation is declining, and obviously 2024 is on the horizon where the ANC will probably lose some degree of power. So these people obviously feel a little bit desperate, like time is running low, and they need to obviously act now in order to secure their pensions, right? Their pension funds. This is yet again government's historical relationships coming to bite the country in the backside. By government, we actually mean the ruling party. It's very difficult at this stage to differentiate between government and the ruling party. And this is basically the ruling party's debt the rest of the country is having to pay for. And as a result, the historical vets will unfortunately have the bill to pay.
Yep, so let us know down in the comments down below. Is this a thing to prevent another peaceful protest, or is it just a grift to pay off people who want reparations for not doing too much? We would love to see your comments. We can't respond to all of them because we have day jobs, so we do appreciate every single one of them. Thanks for watching, everyone, and if you want to become a sponsor, don't forget, send me email, ramon@morningshot.co.za. See you tomorrow. Cheers.